All right, you guys. So I want to continue where we were leaving off about translations, okay? So I want to continue about the parent graph and explain a little bit more about why it has a vertex of 0, 0. And I want to make that very clear because let's think again of our vertex formula, which we should all know. And so remember our parent function that every parabola is going to start like, right? It's going to change, but our parent graph is y equals x squared, right? But I want to put this into the vertex form just to make sure that you understand why the vertex is 0, 0. So let's put this in that form. Let's say y equals a, and then we'll put, well, x minus 0 squared plus 0. Well, we don't actually need our a, so we could just say, well, this is x minus 0 squared plus 0. Because isn't that the same thing as this? It just looks like our form. So our h is going to be, so our vertex for our h is 0 and our k is 0. So that's why our vertex is 0, 0. I want to make sure that you understand that from our parent graph. But let's look now at a different one. Let's say we had y equals x minus 3 squared. I want you to think about, okay, well, what is our vertex here? So remember is that there's no k out here. So it's really like plus 0, right? So there's no k. So our h, remember we're going to flip that. So our vertex is going to be 3 and our k is 0. So if we were going to come graph that, if we were going to come graph this function, y equals x minus 3 squared, okay, so what you would do is you would just start at our vertex, which is 3, 0. So we're going to start right here, and it's going to shift horizontally to the right. So whenever this number in here is negative, you know you're going to shift horizontally to the right. So again, you're just starting at your vertex, and then we're just going to do our step pattern. Over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1 here, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we can just draw our parabola. So all we did was we just shifted our parent graph horizontally to the right. So remember our h, horizontal, means that we're shifting that way. So let's look down at some of these other functions here. So we just sketched this one. This was our a right here. This is a down here. I just was showing this equation. So now let's do y equals x minus 4 squared. Well, what's the vertex here? Well, our vertex is, you're going to flip this, so it's going to be negative 4, and there is no k, so it's going to be 0. So our vertex is going to shift horizontally to the left, right? So we're going to start at negative 4, 0, and we're just going to do the same parent graph over here, right? And since all of these, this is, the a is 1 over here, we're just going to do the 1, 3, 5, 7 step rule the same way we did with x minus 3 squared. We're just going to do the 1, 3, 5, 7 rule. So if you don't remember that, go back to the video explaining how to graph a parabola, because that's our parent graph. So we're going to go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, it's just our standard parent graph. We're just shifting it. Okay, let's look at this one down here. So this was our b right here. This was b. This was our parabola b. Let's look at our parabola c here. We have y equals x squared plus 6. Well, here, let's kind of expand this one so it looks like our vertex formula. So again, we want it to look like y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So let's look at this one. Let's put it in that form. Well, here we have x minus 0 squared plus 6, right? So I just want you to see that the vertex now is going to be 0, 6. So we started here, right? And so if you don't have any parenthesis like you do up here, then the h value is going to stay to 0. There is no h value. The vertex is 0, but you're going to look at your k now, and that's 6. Remember, I told you k is for kite. It means you're going vertically. So our vertex now is 0, 6. So let's graph that. Going to go up to 0, 6. Right? And that's where we're starting. That's our vertex. And now we're just going to do the same parent graph because we only have an a as 1. So we're not going to change the 1, 3, 5, 7 step pattern. So up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm only graphing a few points just to give you guys the idea, but you can keep going if you wanted to generate more points. Right, so this is our parent graph here. This is our translation now. We took our parent graph and we shifted it 6 units up, right? So let's look at, that was our C graph right here. So let's look at our D graph right here. Y equals x squared minus 2. Let's locate our vertex. Remember, if there is no parenthesis, right, there is no h value, then our vertex is just going to be, for h is 0. Then our k for kite is going to be negative 2. So this is our vertex, 0, negative 2. So we're going to come down here, right? There's still a 1 in front of here, so we're not going to change our step pattern. It's still going to be 1, 3, 5, 7. So we're going to go over 1, up 1, over 1 here, up 1, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3. Kind of overlapping, but I'm just showing you all of our graphs here. They're all so let me make sure I did this right. This was 0, negative 2, so we went over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3. So that's why it's kind of intersecting with this graph, but you see what I mean here. They're overlapping. Okay, so that is really important. So just remember, and this was our D graph here. So just remember that when we're translating, let's look at some examples. The graph of y equals x squared is translated 3 units upward. Whenever you see this word upward, you know they're talking about k, kite. So this is how our equation would be written now. We would still keep it y equals x squared because that is our parent graph, but now we're going up by 3. So this is our new equation. Okay, so all you would do is shift your graph. So your vertex here would be 0, 3. Let's look here. The graph of y equals x squared is translated 4 units downward. Same thing. You would say, okay, well, y equals x squared minus 4. Now your vertex is still 0, but it's negative 4. So now you're shifting your graph downwards by 4. You're going down 4. Let's look at this. The graph of y equals x squared is translated 7 units to the left. So think about that. So we're just going to rewrite y equals x squared. That's our parent graph. But it's translated 7 units to the left. So, we're not right here. So I was kind of doing what I think you would do naturally. But you would go like this. Okay, well, we know we have to say plus 7 because remember, it's going to the left. So remember, if you're going left or right, that's horizontally, that's your h value. So your h has to be in the parenthesis, right? So it has to be x plus 7 squared. There is no k value. But remember, when you're doing your vertex here, this flips. So it's going to be negative 7, 0. That is why it's going to the left, because now you're going to negative 7, which is to the left, right? So remember, when they're talking about going left or right, they're talking about horizontal. They're talking about your h value. So you're going to have to put it inside the parenthesis. Remember, parenthesis is always talking about your h value. The k is always on the outside. Okay, the k is always out here. All right, the graph of y equals x squared is translated 6 units to the right. Well, we have to remember when we're going to the left or right, remember we're talking about horizontally, we're talking about our h value. So we're going to have to say, well, x, and we want it to go to the right, and remember we have to flip it. So we're going to have to say minus 6 squared, because if you flipped this, the vertex is now 6, 0. And so again, 6 is to the right because it becomes positive. So remember the h value always flips. So let's put that up there. This h is always flips. So you have to put that in your head that if they're saying it's going to the right, you know you're going to have to subtract it. If they're saying it's going to the left, you're going to have to add it. All right, so the graph of y equals x squared is stretched vertically by a factor of 2. Now here is really important. This is where this one is getting different, because now we're going to keep the parent graph the same, but this time we're just going to put that factor in the front. So your parabola is going to look like this, 2x squared. So now when you're doing your vertex is still going to be 0, 0. But when you do your step pattern, instead of saying 1, 3, 5, and 7, your A is now 2. So now you have to say 2 times 1, which is 2. 3 times 2, which is 6. 5 times 2, which is 10. 7 times 2, which is 14. So now your parabola is going to stretch. It's going to be skinnier. So whatever comes before the x squared is our A value. And the larger the A gets, the skinnier the parabola is going to get. It's going to get thinner and thinner and thinner. All right, so I hope that helps a lot. And make sure you pause this video and take careful notes. Bye-bye.